a scientist.
Suffice it that the blood of 1,000 men and women was spilled within these walls. Limbs twisted and broken, eyes gouged from bloody sockets, flesh burned black.
Please. You'll wait for death. In death, there are no accidents, no coincidences, no mishaps, and no escapes. What you have to realize is that we're all just a mouse that a cat has by the tail.
The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
Hello, welcome one, welcome all to World of the Unexplained. This
Otherwise-
is yours, Jay Scott.
This is Trey Lackey, otherwise known as the American Striptease Studios. You get it, Scott, right?
I do.
Yeah. And it's like you take the first letter of each word.
That's right.
I was thinking about
We've
that.
been stripping in here.
Yeah.
North Carolina style. Raise up. Take your shirt off. Wave it round your head like a helicopter. Yes, sir.
Just for you, in case.
D, put your pants back on.
Yes.
That's not needed.
It's time. It's time for the show.
Wait till the first break at least, man.
I know,
Come on.
seriously. My gosh. Listen, guys, have you always wanted to run a strip club?
Always wanted to run it. Yeah, exactly. We're going to start a school, managing a strip club. No. Anyway, I had my bachelor party this weekend in Jacksonville, Florida.
Jacksonville, Florida.
And I brought Mr. Lackey with me. We had a great time.
Oh, it was fun.
Yeah, it was
A lot of things we can't really talk about.
No, we're not going to talk about, but
No.
it was good stuff. But while we were coming back on the 7.5 car ride back to North Carolina yesterday,
7.5 hour car
Yeah,
ride.
that's what I
Not
said.
7.5 cars that we're driving.
Yeah, so 7.5 hour car ride. back.
I know we like to bling it full flavor,
Well, we came up with this list because we were that bored, and we decided to bring it up on the show tonight. I'm going to try to recreate that. I don't know if maybe you got a pen over there.
I do.
Can I borrow it or have
Yep.
it? It's
There
actually
you go.
my pen anyway.
Well,
I
I
guess.
know. It's, I have a pen too.
Ooh, no,
Double
but I've got
pens. Come on,
paper.
we're a studio.
Now you've got
you know.
paper. All right.
Oh, wait a minute.
Well,
this is not really a pen.
I think we
I
had.
don't think there's any.
We're going to give
yeah.
one. We're going to give one list now. We'll give another one later. But we listed the top 7 vampire movies of all time.
Indeed, we did.
And now these are in no particular order.
We didn't rank them. We just.
I
named them
don't
as
think you
being
can
the
really
top.
rank them though.
Nah, not
I mean, maybe
particularly.
one or two of them you can, but
Yeah.
in general, one of those is obviously the 1931 Bela Lugosi or 31, 33. I don't remember the early 1930s release of Dracula by Bela Lugosi.
It basically started the mythos and the whole genre in American film
Yeah, Bela Lugosi's
or
the bomb.
international film for that matter.
And then also we also included the Bram Stoker's Dracula that was released.
In the mid '90s,
Yeah,
Gary Oldman, did a fantastic job. Honestly,
yeah, I agree.
And then, of course, we cannot forget the famous Max Schreck
Oh yeah,
as a star of the classic German silent film Nosferatu.
1922.
Mm-hmm.
We also included Fright Night from the late 80s. Oh, we think these are the best 7 vampire films that we can come up with.
Yeah, and just it's a little '80s cheese, but come on, it was
We're not talking about the sequel. We're talking about the original.
Yeah, right. The sequel was
The
one
original
of the
deal.
one of the list of the horrible vampire films, and of which there are a plethora of. Let's not forget.
I'm pointing to it.
Oh wait, you want me to say that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, we almost forgot about this one.
Yeah,
Which
I
is
know,
kinda
which we couldn't
shocking.
believe.
Yeah, it's totally shocking. But
And this also just the first one, not the sequel.
right, Salem's Lot,
And a lot of people say there was a sequel to Salem's Lot. That's what
Yeah,
Trent said. He's like,
yeah.
there was a sequel. I'm like, yeah, man, trust me.
and it was horrible.
Yeah, and we also thought that Interview with a Vampire.
was quite good. And I think one of the things that we noticed that we tried to do whenever we were making this list, so many vampire films circulate
Circular.
around
Dracula.
Vlad Tepes, And we were trying to think of other vampire movies that didn't involve Vlad Tepes in this list. And I think, what was the other one?
I think it was this. Is this what we agreed on? Let me write it down first. I think it was, but is that the one?
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but you said it was really, really good. I'll take your word on it.
I think you'll like it. Yeah, the one that trans of it, but he agreed that it should go on the list of the top 7.
That's how much faith I have in the movie, because it's
kind of cheesy, but the story's so good that it had to go. Stephen King's Night Flyer.
Yeah.
Have you seen that, D? No? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, those are the top 7. We wanted to come up with a top 10, but honestly, we racked our brains, and we just couldn't come up with 3 more.
No Lost Boys?
We thought about Lost Boys, but we just didn't feel that it made the cut.
No.
I know it sounds crazy.
What about just Vlad?
No. Oh, God, no. That's like Dracula 2000 or something. No, those are bad.
It's Dracula 2000.
Yeah,
I'm Judas Iscariot.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
you're not.
No,
You're
you're not.
Dracula.
No, you're not your Dracula.
No relation whatsoever. There's how in the world can you?
What was the other one we were making fun of?
Oh man,
Vampires.
yeah,
Oh gosh,
what,
we hate
was it
that
Wes
movie.
Craven or John Carpenter's Vampire?
John Carpenter.
Yeah.
The only thing that saved that man's reputation with me is the Halloween.
Well, I
genre.
thought didn't he make The Thing too?
Yeah. Okay. There's 2 things.
Which you haven't seen, but
Which I haven't seen,
an
but
excellent
everyone
film. Have you
talks
seen
about
The Thing, D?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. What do you think of that?
I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's quite good, and in a way it.
Other old classics, we can go with It.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't a vampire.
Yeah, I mean, we were just kind of
Yeah, we were just kind of focusing on
tossing
vampire.
around.
So there's 3 more. If you guys can come up with 3 more that should make our top 10, email us worldoftheunexplained@gmail.com.
That's right.
And we'll consider them and probably laugh at you and send it back and say no. No, and here's why.
What? The Legend of the 5 Golden Vampires
Meets Dracula. That was yeah. We wanted to include the Hammer films, but we just couldn't think of one that would.
Yeah.
And we should definitely, I guess, as a category, say that the Hammer films, just because
There were so many of them.
we should have included a film with Christopher Lee as Dracula, probably.
Yeah, because he was he made the quintessential vampire in the 70s.
Sure.
And Peter Cushing as Van Helsing. You know?
Oh, yeah.
But
We
there's
should have done
so many of those films, and
So
it was
we're gonna
it was
update
real
the
it was
list.
real difficult to really pinpoint one from the Hammer films.
Blackula.
But
No, well, we didn't include Blackula or the what was it, Vampire in Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Or Dracula Dead and Loving It. We felt these were all spoof kind of films. Even though Blackula was really more of a black exploitation film of the 70s, it's like the Black Samurai or some of these other things.
Yeah.
We just felt like they were, not that we're like vampire racists or anything. We just felt like that they were black that was a black exploitation film, but it was also a spoof, and it just didn't fit into what we were doing.
right.
About TV shows.
Well, we thought about Dark Shadows, and we thought about what else did we think about?
Was that Forever Night?
Forever Night. No, that's too cheese.
Nah.
I'm just trying to come up with.
Well, the Dracula television series, which I'm gonna admit to owning. Yeah,
There's a Dracula television series?
yeah.
Oh my God. And what
I've got
decade
it.
did that come out of?
It was the 90s. It's cheese, man.
That's
It's
horrible.
Total cheese. Oh, it's bad. But I
then
own them all.
And don't forget Kindred the Embrace when they were trying to bring in the White Wolf.
I never
genre.
saw that, but I
it was
heard about it.
pretty not as good as it could have been. You know.
You got your Blade. And all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we didn't count Blade or any of those things. I mean, they're fun to watch. You know what I mean? But
Sorry. Swallowed that wrong. Good old liquid in the lungs. No, we talked
listen
about
to Scott choke.
we talked about Blade, but it was just so bad.
Well, I mean, it was just fun to watch, but it just wasn't.
It didn't follow our traditional
Yeah.
ideas of what we think vampire movies should encompass.
What a good one. Now, I like the notion. Well, I didn't like the notion of vampires being like a race or a species of creature. I didn't care for that much. It was a neat. I guess they were trying to twist it around, but nah,
It just didn't work out.
I don't really care for that. They're the undead. It's a thing that passes from one person
it's
to the
awful.
next.
I'm trying to recover here. It's not working.
Well, I'll just hang on while I talk about some more
Go
stuff.
ahead.
Anyway, but a number of other things that we had was we tried to make a list of werewolf films, of which we found even less than vampire films, and then we tried Frankenstein films, which of course there was only 2 I think that we really came up with: the original Frankenstein and then Mary Shelley's Frankenstein with that blonde dude that's in 24. I think.
Well, there's another one that came out that was really bad, and it had I couldn't even watch the whole thing. It had what's her name? Posey oh man, Parker Posey, that's her name.
Who?
She was in Dazed and Confused.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She
She
was the
was
one who's like
in it.
air raid, with a little, yeah.
The nice looking.
It was bad. Yeah, she was nice looking then. She's definitely not as nice looking now. You
Well-
would think she would be, but she's just so thin. I mean, just emaciated thin.
Yeah, that's totally true.
But,
what was it called?
It was called Frankenstein, I believe.
No.
It was some kind of like futuristic
No.
rendition. It was
oh
really.
gosh, futuristic rendition.
It was really bad.
come
and
on.
you know how they take these things and they morph them and
they ruined them.
But it was
basically.
not a good Frankenstein movie. But
then-
anyway,
So we have a list. Please email us at worldlyunexplained@gmail.com if you can come up with some interesting classic Hollywood monster movies or vampire movies or even werewolf or Frankenstein movies. That didn't just stink horribly.
what about that?
Like I had said, Creature from the Black Lagoon, even though neither of us have seen it, but that genre of that creature keeps on showing up, in the whenever you lump all the big classic Hollywood movie monsters, it's always like Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, Mummy, and then the Creature from the Black Lagoon. He's always like number 5, but he's in there.
Well, tonight we're going to talk about
anyway.
some stuff, some weird stuff here. We've got Joshua P. Warren joining us again, and he's going to tell all of us about something really cool that he's breaking to our show second, I guess, the first show, which was, of course, Coast to Coast.
Right.
So we're getting second dibs here, I believe. Anyway, Joshua P. Warren, how are you tonight, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great, and by the way, my favorite vampire movie is on your list. You want to hear it?
What is it?
It's Werner Herzog's Nosferatu, which was made in the 1970s, I guess the late 70s.
I remember that.
Wait a minute.
It had Klaus Kinski.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh.
This was a remake of Nosferatu.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't even think about that.
Totally forgot about that one.
I didn't think about that one. That's good. That would be one I would add to my list, actually.
The remake.
Yeah. 70s remake. Anyway, so what's going on, man?
Good one.
Well, of course, I am up to my ears in Satan.
Okay.
What are you dipping your hands in?
Yeah.
Satan. Anyway.
I've been, working on this secret project for, I guess, close to a year now, and for just the past few days now have I been able to really open up and talk about it in the media. And, I kept it secret because it's a very controversial subject matter, but I do have this brand new movie. I directed it and wrote it and produced it along with our friend C. Eric Scott, of course, who also did Talking Tall with us. And it is called Inside the Church of Satan.
And what's that website, real quick?
It's InsideTheChurchOfSatan.com, and of course, if you go there, you can see a free slideshow and teaser. But basically, I am the first person who was given access to the new Black House of the North and extensive access within the entire Church of Satan in over 40 years, and actually traveled to another country along with Eric, and we lived with Satanists for a while. We interviewed them, documented rituals that have never before been observed, much less captured by an outsider, and just compiled it all together in this really comprehensive documentary. And I always tell people right up front, no, I'm not a Satanist. This is not promoting Satanism. It's not satanic propaganda. Of course, Eric, he's a devoted Christian who went through this entire process. And, so you have our thoughts and our views on what happened to us, in addition to seeing this stuff that you otherwise would never get to see.
That's pretty huge, really.
And I actually got a chance to see the film. Yeah, it was one of those top secret screenings. But I actually did get a chance to see the film fairly recently, and I was very impressed with it. I think the cinematography's good. I think the editing's good. I was just really impressed with it. I was amazed at the. I like the way it was cut together, but I was amazed at the depth that you guys took with it and some of the things that you get to see.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm very happy to hear it, especially knowing that you talk to people who investigate weird stuff all the time, and you have a lot of references there to compare it with. And with this particular movie, the arrangement that I made with the Church of Satan, and I can tell you more about how that came about. If
Did you sign your soul? No, I'm kidding.
Was there a dark?
That's what I was going to talk about at first. But the essential arrangement was that, I would try to treat them fairly and try to document this objectively. And the only thing that they would ever get access to in terms of input was just making sure that the documentary was factually correct. But other than that, I had final editorial control, and I was concerned the whole time about the usual process of making a movie and selling it to a distributor who might go in and try to recut it or market it in some way that's not sincere. And so in order to overcome that, we have set this up so that you can watch it instantly online at InsideTheChurchOfSatan.com. And so it's our way of self-distributing it to get it out there to people so that they can actually, see it, and if they like it, then they can buy a DVD, and this way we've cut out the middleman and anybody else who might try to come in and distort what the final cut was all about.
What does the Church of Satan think of your film?
Well, they had certainly some harsh criticisms when the movie was initially completed, because I sent them a rough cut, which I think was probably the same cut that you saw, Jay.
Yeah.
And I was very proud that those who looked at it said that it was factually correct. There was not one factual error. But they did have some things that they said they wanted changed in terms of, they said there were some areas where they felt like I was mocking them. Because the fact of the matter is, there are, satirical moments sprinkled throughout the film.
Sure.
And I did not think of that as mocking them. In fact, I think that's a very strong word. If anything, it was just, me trying to lighten up
the mood
in some cases. Because, humor is just a natural part of life. And, if I go in and take all this super serious, then it's not going to be accurate in terms of what I was thinking and feeling as I went through this journey. So they had some criticisms about some of the humor, and I tried to work with them as much as I could to make them understand why I had put in some of the things I did. But overall, I think that they are satisfied with it. They have said that I am a man of my word, that I did not go in there and try to abuse the access by, distorting what they think. And I honestly believe that anybody who watches this movie will be able to accurately see who these people are, what they're about, and either love them or hate them based upon who they really are, instead of this sort of media persona that's been projected on them by, fear-mongering and alternative agendas for so many years.
One of the things that I hope I'm not giving too much away, but one of the things that was different for me in seeing was the fact that a lot of these people don't believe in Satan.
Yeah.
And that, you call it Satanism, and, so not all of them believe that in general, that there is a Satan, or, believe the way that media has typified it as believing.
Yeah, that's true. That was one thing that surprised me most, because, there are all kinds of people out there calling themselves Satanists, doing crazy things, but I'm focusing on, the Church of Satan, founded by Anton LaVey, and the members of that church, they told me they do not believe that there is a Satan or a God or any sort of intelligence out there in realms beyond our own. And, of course, everyone says, well, why on earth do they call themselves Satanists then? And they claim that they use the word Satan as a symbol. It represents the adversary or the rebel, and that they also make it clear that they say all religions are showbiz, and they are the only one that admits it. So they do realize that by calling themselves Satanists, there is a shocking element there as well. After all, Anton LaVey had a background as a carny and performer in sideshows and such. It's really weird, because they, for the most part, are atheists who just really worship the carnal and freedom, and of course they have a specific set of rules, and I can read those if you'd like shortly. But the thing that makes them different from just a normal atheist is that they still go out there and practice magic, and it's an important part of their religion, and they say it works, and they put on these elaborate ghoulish rituals. And so sometimes it's hard to reconcile the notion of believing that there is nothing greater than what we can see, so to speak, that there is nothing beyond this carnal existence, and yet still believe that you can go into, this hidden chamber after you walk through this series of secret passages and lock yourself in a room and focus on some intention that somehow radiates into the world and changes things.
Were you frightened when you first, when you guys first came up with this idea and you were invited on this journey?
Well, I don't know if frightened was the right word, but I felt that there were some genuine concerns that I should be mindful of, because I felt pretty confident that no organization that's actually, sacrificing people and killing babies or whatever would allow me to come up there and bring a camera. So, I didn't feel like that I was going to get into something that would be, violently dangerous. But on the other hand, anytime you get on an airplane and fly to another country and there's a stranger there who picks you up and drives you off into a snow-covered landscape as the snow is setting, or the sun is setting, and off to this secret location where you go through various passageways and panels and end up in this hidden chamber. I mean, I don't care who this person is. You're at their mercy at that point. So you just have to sort of surrender to the idea that, when they lock me up in this little room and they're standing around with hoods, with swords and knives and things, I hope I don't piss them off,
Yeah, that's true.
And in fact, one of their actual guidelines, and I want to make sure I state this correctly, they have 11 satanic rules of the earth. And one of them is, if, let's see here, if someone is in your lair and they annoy you, and I'm still trying to find exactly how it's worded, but basically they say, if someone in your lair annoys you, here it is, if a guest in your lair annoys you, treat him cruelly and without mercy. Okay?
Oh, wonderful.
Well,
That is one of their rules of the earth. And so I was in their lair, and, I wanted to be respectful toward them anyway, because, I wasn't going up there to pull, like a Bill O'Reilly or a Michael Savage on these guys. I did, however, want to ask them some tough questions. And some of the questions I asked them, they could have been offended by. And there were a couple occasions where some of them did get a little bit hot under the collar, I think. But still, I didn't want to be rude to them or do something they would perceive as rude. But
you wanted the full story.
I'm sorry?
I said, but you still wanted the full story.
Yeah, that's right. I wanted to be able to ask them questions that sort of cut right to their beliefs. And, and for example, one person I talked to, or at least one, I said, this guy, Anton LaVey, okay, he started this religion, declared himself the high priest. Who gives a blank about Anton LaVey? Why do you care about this guy? And what makes you so special? Whoop-de-doo, you say you're a priest and all that sort of thing. Now, and they kind of chuckled, and they answered that question. Now, if I'd been sitting down with a Christian and said, Jesus, who gives a blank about Jesus? I don't know if they would have been so tolerant of being those kinds of questions.
Well, I mean, I think you're talking about a founder of a human founder that they don't believe in, certain tenets of the religion versus someone that these others believe to be as a Christian, myself and others believe to be, God.
Yeah.
So obviously I don't think that Anton LaVey ever claimed to be God that I know of, and that they don't see him as such. Just a leader and organizer.
Well, it's funny because they say that they don't view him with any divinity, but boy, they sure do have a heck of a lot of respect for him, and I mean, you almost feel like maybe they do apply a little bit something to him that they can't put into words, and I think LaVey himself sort of said in his writings that, we are each our own God, and that, we therefore should be able to worship ourselves. And, people ask me, are these guys evil? And, when I think about that question, I have to say, well, if you think it's evil to to curse the concept of God while you held the name of Satan, or
Yeah.
if you think it's evil to have to be sexually free and have like nude altars and wear all these ghoulish masks and practice ritual magic and worship the human and all that, then I think you would consider these people evil. On the other hand, they never threatened me, so I didn't have any problem being around them. They didn't even know that Eric was a Christian. I don't think most of them didn't, and they didn't treat him. They treated him well, and then after they found out he was a Christian, they said that they were very glad that he was a Christian who was able to go there and see how that they behave. But it's well, they deceive me. People say, "Well, do you think the moment you walked out the door, they all high-fived each other and dragged the babies out again?" And there's no way I can know that, but I did the best, just staying with these people and eating with them and asking them everything I could ever want to ask them. And I think that probably the biggest issue with them is that you've got to be pretty egotistical, I think, to have that kind of mindset that there's nothing greater than you.
Do you think if they had known Eric was a Christian that they would have been so open?
I think that if they knew he was a Christian, they might have been a little bit more suspicious from the get-go that we were trying to look for something that we could take out of context or manipulate. And so, he just kept a very low profile when it came to that, because I believe there is a creator, but I don't think that I know all the things about what this creator expects of humans, and so I am, technically more or less agnostic in that sense. And I think that for them, they were probably more comfortable speaking with someone who was a little closer to the doubt that they have in their minds than someone like Eric, who's made up his mind that he's a Christian. So it's probably a good thing that I was actually asking the questions and doing the interviewing, and he was mainly focusing on just getting the best shots and audio and stuff. So we made a good team, I believe.
Cool. Now, where can people go to get this again? Go ahead and give the site.
Yeah, sure. If you go to InsideTheChurchOfSatan.com, you can see the teaser there, free slideshow, and if you get this movie, if you want to watch it online, just for the next few days, we're doing a special promotion for the first week. You can watch it online instantly for $7.95. Now, after this first week is up, then the price is going to go up. But if you watch it for $7.95 and you decide you want the DVD, well, then we will credit you right then and there, that $7.95, toward the purchase of the DVD. And also something else that we can maybe get into a little later if you want to. I recently spent a night, actually 2 nights, in what is considered to be the most haunted house in the most haunted bedroom in the most haunted house in the country, down at Myrtle's Plantation.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, just some amazing stuff happened to me, and I shot a lot of footage of that, and I'm going to make this footage available for free. I think it's that important that people should see it. So if somebody goes to InsideTheChurchOfSatan.com and they don't want to, buy anything, if they just put their email address into my little email address bank, then I will send them an email as soon as I've got this footage ready, and I'll show them how they can watch this footage for free, because it's something I just want to put out there, because for me it was amazing. These atheists or these Satanists, they're basically atheists who don't believe there could be another being, and yet when I'm in this haunted house, I interacted for hours one night with this intelligent entity and captured the whole thing on video.
Ooh.
So I think that sort of helped me make up my mind that there is another realm out there, and I think if any of these Satanists had been in my position, they probably would have changed their minds, I guess.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Possibly.
So we're gonna take a short break, Joshua. If you'll hang with us, We'll be right back. You're listening to World of the Unexplained. 877-722-7382. That's 877-SCARE-U2, toll free in the U.S. and Canada. We'll be right back with Joshua P. Warren after this.
Once again, World of the Unexplained. That's us. Joshua P. Warren. That's him over there on the other end of the line. Give us a call, guys. 1-877-722 or 7382. Locally, 336-996-1596. That's 1-877-SCARE-U2. We're talking about the devil or the Church of Satan.
Yeah.
But it seems better to say talk about the devil. So, Josh, why don't you, without giving away too much about the film or anything, kind of walk us into that initial moments, and I guess the initial hours, I guess, when you spent time in the actual church itself, and just kind of give us a brief glimpse of what it must have been like.
Sure. The real impetus for the whole project was that I've always been interested in religion because, a guy like myself who studies the paranormal, I go out there usually and take instruments and measure things and put them in front of little meters and scales. But the average person makes sense of the paranormal and the mysterious primarily through religion. That's how he makes sense of these great, unexplainable things in life. And I have grown up, I was born right here in western North Carolina, home of Billy Graham, very Christian-oriented place. And there was always, I think, an enhanced stigma against, the idea of the satanic. And, of course, there was the big satanic panic, as they call it, in the 1980s when every killer out there was claiming, Satan made him do it.
Well, you remember these, Josh, when we were growing up. You and I are roughly the same age. But you remember the Phil Donahue shows and all of the TV pop culture shows that came out where they had guests, and they even had the big scare with the Crest toothpaste, if you remember that.
Yeah,
oh right,
that's true. Yeah, the Procter and Gamble,
mm-hmm.
and you could find satanic meaning in anything. So my curiosity was always piqued because I wondered, are these people actually able to go out there and conjure up some being from the nether realm, and then they go out and cast a spell and they can make things happen? Is this actually true? I was always curious about that. I worked in a bookstore when I was 16. I worked in the special orders there, and someone ordered a copy of the Satanic Bible, and all the employees were so freaked out they wouldn't even touch it. And it was just, it seemed like a very bizarre reaction to these people. And so when I started doing my show, Speaking of Strange, and I had the opportunity to interview all kinds of interesting folks like you do on this show, I decided to contact the Church of Satan just to see what they actually believe in, and but it's kind of weird that there would be an organization out there devoted to this idea of Satan. And so I treated Peter H. Gilmore, the high priest of the church, fairly, he thought, on my show, because I didn't get him on there and try to distort what he was saying. And the ratings were just enormous, huge results. And so I wanted to have him back on the show. We continued corresponding, and that's when he told me that he felt the media had never treated the organization accurately. And so, being that I had just done this documentary, Talking Tall and stuff, eventually he felt like that, they would trust me to be the first person in over 40 years to go up there and go within the new Black House, because the original Black House was built by Anton LaVey in San Francisco. It was a very famous place, but it was demolished in 2001, just a few years after LaVey died. And it was demolished in part because the people in the community felt it was a sinister place. They didn't want this large black mansion standing there representing all of the sordid things that had gone on inside. So when they constructed this new lair, what they now call the Black House of the North, they are very particular about security there. One of the stipulations was that I would not be able to describe the outside of the house or certainly photograph or film the outside of the house. That was out of the question. So we made all these arrangements. I talked to some of my friends. Nick Redfern is a good friend of mine. Of course, he's a popular ufologist and cryptozoological researcher, and he's in the movie. I got his advice on how to approach this. And then I also talked to Timothy Green Beckley. We made a stop in New York City, and he's known as Mr. UFO or Mr. Creepo in a lot of circles, and he's one of these guys who's just spent lifetimes, it seems like, out there investigating weirdness. And so, I talked to some good people in the field who are included in the movie. And then finally, Eric and I, after months of preparation and discussions about this, and I think later you're probably going to have Eric on here to give you his views on how all this progressed. He was a little bit more reserved about the whole thing than I was. But my main fear was that people would just automatically associate me with the idea of Satanism, and they would come and lynch me. That was the biggest fear, and that's still a fear. I mean, I've increased security quite a bit around my house, and some weird things have been happening around here. But anyway, when we finally arrived up there, and this man who is named Magister Robert Lang, who's a fourth-degree Satanist, he met us wearing a long coat and a big furry hat, and he has a face that looks just like the character of the devil you might cast in a movie. Very pointed and sharp, and a black goatee and piercing eyes. And so when he finally drove us off to the Black House, we were greeted first by this huge black Great Dane. I think it's the biggest dog I've ever seen. So that was fitting. And once we got inside the Black House, it was pretty much exactly what you would expect. It had sort of an antiquated feel of a study. There were a lot of Egyptian artifacts, many curiosities and memorabilia related to Rasputin or Vlad Dracul the Impaler. And as we walked through this place, and it was actually rather large, but it was divided into a lot of rambling rooms, a lot of the rooms had a theme of one sort or another. For example, they had a bathroom that was pink, and it was called the Marilyn Monroe bathroom, and it stood out like a sore thumb compared to everything else, and it was just stuffed with, pictures of blonde bombshells like Jane Mansfield and stuff. And after we were shown to our rooms, we'd gone on this big tour of the place, and so we said, well, Magister Lang, where is the ritual chamber? And that's when he gave us the big surprise, because this whole time we'd been walking back and forth around a bookcase. And he turned and reached over and manipulated some hidden lever, and this bookcase spun around, and just like some scene out of Scooby-Doo, this guy actually had a secret passageway in his house.
It's like the Bat Cave.
Yeah. Or the Horn Cave.
We walked through this passageway, and it was surreal, to say the least, when we stepped into this ritual chamber. I mean, the whole place, was black, with dark marbled floors. There were two tall coffins standing next to the wall, a huge Baphomet, an altar with all kinds of skulls and swords and daggers. There was a drum set in the corner. They had all kinds of Anton LaVey memorabilia and other things that they found significant, such as a little case that had a chunk from the floor of the place where Rasputin was poisoned. Okay. And there was an altar in the middle, sort of a fire pit where you could, roast whatever. And then after we'd seen this, he took us even deeper, because the coffins were lined with red on the inside, and he then went through one of the coffins that had a false back. And now we're in another secret passageway, which brings us out in another chamber, and this one was a little more practical, had kind of a dressing area back there. And so altogether, without describing, I guess, every little detail, it was very, it was ornate, it was elaborate, it was really amazing to me that this guy had put so much effort into creating these kinds of hidden things. And it makes you wonder how many houses out there have this. I mean, he claims that there are people who are worshiping whatever they worship in secret passageways and panels all over the place. But you'd never know it. They say that most of the Satanists you'd meet intentionally disguise the fact that they are Satanists.
Oh yeah, you know it tends to pass you up for
understandable.
that job promotion. You know? Oh, Bill, he's a Satanist.
Yeah, that is exactly right.
Yeah.
And they claim that, the average person who's a Satanist can't afford to say it because that person would spend all their time, justifying it, whereas it's these famous people who can, and some that High Priest Gilmore mentioned were, Sammy Davis Jr. was a warlock in the church. Jane Mansfield was a member. Of course, you've got your obvious ones like, Marilyn Manson and King Diamond and Mark Almond, and Soft Cell and stuff like that. But they claim that you have all levels of people, public servants, and teachers, and, everything you can imagine has members of the Church of Satan. And you can join up, and if you so choose, there are only 3 people in the whole world who will ever know you are a member, and those are 3 people who would never tell. They even have a council called the Council of Nine. Nobody knows who the members of the Council of Nine are, but it's this body that makes certain governmental decisions for the organization. So
That's
it's rather
weird.
mysterious, and you can imagine when you go through an experience like that, and you see that this isn't just a big joke for these people.
So what do you think they didn't tell you?
What they did when?
I said, what do you think that they did not tell you?
Oh, what they did not? Well,
Because you know they didn't. I mean, with any organization, there's going to be some things
yeah.
that they're going to keep to themselves.
I would think that the one thing that I got a feeling that they weren't showing me as much of as they might otherwise is the sexual stuff. Because the movie, and I should warn people, the movie does have nudity. It has material a lot of people would consider offensive. There is a scene where I do attempt to conjure up the devil on camera. So, I mean, there's certainly, sexuality and other things of that nature in the film. But still, when I was there, I don't know, I just got the feeling that maybe they weren't trying to portray themselves as out there having as much sexual freedom as they probably do practice.
Okay.
There wasn't a naked woman around every corner.
Oh man, no.
That would totally boost your,
That would probably boost membership, I would think.
What? Really?
At least amongst the men. Josh, we've got a caller for you. This is Adam from Nashville. How you doing, Adam?
I'm good, guys. It's been a while since I've called.
Yeah, and I know it has, man. We miss you.
Thanks. I decided I'd actually try to get in before Ron Paul Hunter could hit it. So.
All right. What's going on, man?
Just a couple of questions. First question for Joshua P. Warren is, explain the difference. I heard your coast to coast thing, by the way, and explain the difference between what you believe the Satan worshiper and a devil worshiper is, and also what's the fascination with Rasputin for these people?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, when it comes to Satanist versus devil worshiper, the members of the Church of Satan say that they just flat out do not believe there is a devil or a god, and they practice most of their behavior based upon logical concepts that are very carnal and Newtonian, whereas a devil worshiper believes there is a devil, wants to go out and serve this devil and treat that devil as their lord, and then feel like that they actually have some greater supernatural power because it's being granted to them by this deity. So it's really the difference between an atheist and a deist in that sense. Now, when it comes to Rasputin, I believe that they are fascinated by any dark figure out there that seems to have some, deeper mystical understanding of the way the world works, and also is able to perhaps manipulate the world around them. Because the Satanists, one of the paradoxes perhaps in the way they present themselves is they claim that they don't want to see a world where everyone is a Satanist, and they don't go out there and they don't proselytize, they don't try to solicit their beliefs on anybody else. But at the same time, they do admire, someone who mesmerizes like they believe that Rasputin did. And so I think for them, if you consider they're big fans of H.P. Lovecraft, anything that's kind of dark and ghoulish, they're attracted to. But they never made it explicitly clear if there was one particular thing about somebody like Rasputin, other than the fact that they feel he defied the governmental norms of the day.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. Rasputin was also a very, very hedonistic kind of a person, too. And I think that, since you were talking
He's
about
Verado, man. Did you hear?
Oh, but you were talking about carnality in it, and Rasputin totally comes on the top of my mind when I think of someone who's very carnal and
No, Adam,
and so on.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Scott.
Adam, have you purchased the download?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
I may. I'm not sure. But,
Okay, we'll talk more about it. Maybe you'll change it. It is a really good film, coming from, where I stand on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting film, and I think and here's my view and my interpretation of it. I've got one, is I think that these guys obviously they're going to intentionally be nice to Joshua and Eric because they want the world to see them as being a certain way, and I think that. It's just my opinion, but if they perceive, hey, man, we're just as cool as all you guys. We're not a bunch of weirdos that roast babies and stuff. Everybody's going to be like, oh, they're just misunderstood. It's the liberal in America in us, that's going to say, oh, they're cool. But that's just...
what I found fascinating from the interview that I heard the other night was just the fact that, you don't want to really... misrepresent the Church of Satan. It's just kind of a funny concept.
It is, but you know what? I really learned a lot watching the movie, and I tell you what, the way the film was done, and this is just a J. Scott recommendation here. It's just something I honestly believe you need to see. I think once you see it, you'll get an idea of what I'm saying, but it's one of those films that it's really well done, and it's very interesting. It's one of those films where you don't pause it because it holds your attention the entire time.
Yeah.
Never a dull or a boring moment.
Interesting.
So,
I'll probably have to check it out.
Okay, well,
excellent.
The website, once again, is InsideTheChurchOfSatan.com. Adam, thank you for calling. Feel free to give us a call back.
Thanks a lot, Adam.
Thanks a lot, guys. And you need to tell Bravo Hunter he needs to get his own show. With large vultures eating each other.
Oh, my gosh.
All right, man.
Adam.
Take it easy, Adam.
See you
Thank
later.
you.
You guys have a good one.
You too.
Bye. Yeah, we'll probably be getting a call from Ron later tonight.
Probably so.
He's at work.
Oh, is he?
Oh, he's at work. Okay.
Well,
he's already called. Josh, I'm going to give you a couple minutes for a last word, and then we're going to grab Mr. Scott, take a break, grab Mr. Scott, throw him on the line with us for a little bit, and then we're going to bring you back if that's cool.
Yeah, sure. In fact, I'll probably be able to listen on the internet while you talk to him.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, go ahead and give us a good close here.
Yeah. Well, I do find that the ultimate mystery here, and what makes this organization unique, is that they do profess to not believe in anything other than themselves, and that includes paranormal phenomena. And yet the head of the church saw a full-bodied female apparition when he was young. Magister Robert Lang, who was one step down, saw a female full-bodied apparition when he was young. And they do get together and have these very intense emotional rituals where they believe they're able to somehow create changes in the world in an almost psychic way. And there's something very insightful about that paradox there. Now, whether or not they are evil, I think depends on what they choose to do with that. And, of course, a lot of people would say, well, they're going to hell just because, they don't.
That's what I would say, but go ahead.
But that is one thing that makes these people so inherently interesting. And after Eric's take on it, then I'll try to address sort of how he and I differed and also how we were similar in our views of the whole experience.
But I will say, from my perspective, going into watching the thing, I was very I figured I'd already have my mind made up about certain things, and I did, and some of those things I didn't change. But it was a film. I will say that I'm glad I did see it, and it's something that I would definitely recommend other people watch, because it's not gonna be what you think it's gonna be, and I don't really want to give a lot away, but it just I can't really describe. It's just something you need to see. So if that makes any sense, but
Go watch it.
yeah, go watch it. Go run, don't walk. No. But I'm not trying to plug it. All of you that know me know that I don't plug things that I don't believe in, because that's just stupid. But I do think it's something that you should see. I think it's something that's very interesting, and like I said, it's not a movie that you're just going to sit down with and press the pause button to get up and grab a soda or pop a bag of popcorn. This is something you better have your stuff with you when you start watching it, because it's something that just mesmerizes you, clips you in, and you just want to see what's going to happen next. Mm-hmm. So anyway, Josh, we're going to get back with you in a little bit. We're going to take a break, and we're going to call Mr. C. Eric Scott, the filmmaker in this movie. InsideTheChurchOfSatan.com is the website, and you can visit it there and sign up for Joshua P. Warren's email stuff. He's going to give you some free stuff. We're going to talk more about the Church of Satan when we come back after this.
And we are back at World of the Unexplained. Give us a call, 1-877-722-7382. 1-877-SCARE-U2, or locally 336-996-1596. Now we have Mr. Eric Scott, who was the editor and cinematographer of the film Inside the Church of Satan. Eric, how are you doing?
Oh, not too bad. Just trying to crunch numbers.
Okay, well, that sounds really exciting. No, it doesn't. Do you see how convincing I was there when I really seemed like, gosh, crunching numbers? Excellent. So let's talk about something exciting. Let's talk about your work with Inside the Church of Satan, and basically, we'll just kind of start from sort of a technical standpoint, and as a cinematographer, as a filmmaker, basically the guy who runs the shots and the film and stuff like that. How challenging was this as a piece to produce as compared to other things that you've done?
Well, I would say in this particular instance, it was maybe a little bit more challenging than some of the other projects. For instance, like the Talking Tall talk radio thing that we did, and that we actually had to travel outside of the country to make this movie, or at least to film some of this movie. And anytime you're doing any kind of international traveling, it's very difficult to carry any pieces of large equipment with you and get that through customs without them being suspicious of the activities that you're doing.
Oh yeah, didn't they think that you were like bringing that you might have child porn or something?
Yeah, well, that was indeed one question. They did,
Scott comes into the conversation.
And the funny thing is, Joshua and I, we got to the customs area, and they basically had let me, they basically had given me the task, to go on through. But because of some of the answers to questions that Joshua gave, they actually took him to an additional holding area where they were going to do some additional searching.
Body cavity.
And when we got up to that area, the woman waved me on through, and Joshua was like, "Oh well, we're traveling together." So she turns to me and she's like, "Well,
y'all be searched together
with him, or you can meet him around on the other side." And I was like, "Oh well, what happened?" She's like, just go ahead and go with him." I'm like, "Okay."
All right.
I'm thinking it's just they're going to take him into an office and ask him some more in-depth questions and whatnot, and I can just sit there and wait, right?
Yeah.
No, we walk through a door, and there are more customs agents, and they it's an area where they basically can take your luggage out and do a very fine inspection of the luggage. They pull everything out of the bags. Yeah, it was just a real mess.
So did they find your child porn? No, I'm kidding.
They find the child porn. Well, since I don't have any of that on any computer, and would never want to have any of that, or even have any interest in looking for sort of stuff, I find that actually pretty disgusting.
And it'd be very foolish.
I guess I could consider myself lucky, that there was no such thing on the on my laptop, and the customs agent seemed satisfied to that effect. So,
Right. How long were you there being searched? How long did it take?
Wow. I would say probably at least another half hour or so, because I mean, literally, they pulled all of my equipment out of the bag that had the equipment in it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it did look a little odd, though. I guess I had 2 video cameras, probably about 25 tapes.
Yeah.
I guess that might raise a few eyebrows. I think maybe maybe if they didn't find any child porn on the computer, maybe they thought we were there to film child porn. I don't know.
Yeah. And there's also an issue. Okay, good.
The odd thing is, of course, and when we were getting ready to leave, the shoe kind of was on the other foot, and I was the one that got flagged when we were trying to leave and come back to the United States. The ticketing agent printed Joshua's boarding pass, and really in no time at all, no hassles or anything. But apparently, I have some sort of file that's been opened on me in this country, and they actually she had to call. The ticketing agent said that she had to call and get my file unlocked or something like that.
Gosh.
Oh, whoa.
That's like an extra. I was waiting at the. It's a good thing now you know why they tell you to be there early for international flights, because
Right.
I waited there for an hour while she was on the phone with apparently some government agency and that particular country, and she was basically trying to make sure that I was cleared to leave.
Oh my gosh,
Man. And there's also an issue, too, when you travel abroad, and especially in your case, Eric, where you're filming a whole bunch of stuff. You got to make sure that you pretty much have all the equipment you need, and you can't,
Exactly.
but you don't want to overdo it either if it's just you two guys. It's not like you had porters, and, that will carry your stuff with you, you know what I mean? So you kind of have to be as lean as possible, but as efficient as possible. So I would imagine that would be quite a challenge. Plus the thought that maybe, well, wait a minute, what if something messes up on one of the pieces of equipment that's crucial to filmmaking, and then now what do I do? So I mean, it's a good thing that nothing like that happened, did it? While you were doing this project?
Oh yeah, I mean there were all sorts of hurdles that with as we passed each one, we were just like. Kind of a sigh of relief, that we were able to get beyond a particular hurdle. In fact, we really didn't feel like we were completely safe from scrutiny until we were back on the ground, really in the United States. I mean, once we got out of the airport in New York, I was pretty satisfied that we were going to make it. But, even though I still then had to, catch a flight back to Washington, and Joshua had to catch a flight back to Asheville, I at least felt confident that once we were, gotten out of the airport there at LaGuardia in New York, that I felt like we were pretty safe. There was not going to be, men in black suits or something,
Yeah.
jumping out and trying to take our footage,
Right.
But I think I did learn one thing. I think if we do something like this again, I will probably ship my equipment in advance, so that I don't have to deal with the hassles of trying to get through, airport security and all that sort of stuff with cameras and things of that nature.
Right.
Did you find any challenges as far as lighting or anything like that?
Well, lighting is always a challenge, no matter what. But yeah, especially when you're traveling. I did bring a few small lights that I was able to basically kind of use as some fill light, and then I had a couple of on-camera lights. Problem with the on-camera lights, though, is unless you've got one that's powered by the camera, which I do have one, but the other light that I have is not, and it's powered by rechargeable batteries that don't last very long. So for those who have watched the film, there may be a few areas, especially one scene that comes to mind is a scene in the kitchen where we're interviewing Robert Lang, and as the scene goes on, it progressively gets a little bit darker, and the reason being that the light on the camera was slowly but surely getting dimmer,
and dimmer.
You're not supposed to tell that, man.
Well,
supposed to say it's the work of
these are the fun
Satan.
technical things. These are the behind-the-scenes, kind of things. These
Right.
are the extras that you don't normally pay extra money for on the DVD. So
So how was it for you as a Christian going into this deep into this organization?
Oh, really? I didn't know what to expect. Honestly, I was still quite a bit unnerved until really. Until I think by the time we were there, the second morning or whatever, or the second full day. But by the time they were ready to perform the ritual, I still had some feelings of nerves because I really didn't know what to expect for that. But at that point, I really did think that if these people did mean us any harm, that they would have done so by then. But by the time the ritual came, I really didn't think that they were going to jump out with hatchets or something and hack us to death as a sacrifice or anything like that. But
that would ruin the film.
What's that?
Said that would ruin the film.
Well, exactly. Oh, no, we could have done it as a Blair Witch Project. Said here's our address. If you do aim to kill us, please mail the footage too. So a few editing friends that probably could have edited something
the final moments,
whatever footage we would have had. What
was it like as far as? I guess you guys were actually the first to actually go in and film this ritual, right?
Yes, this particular ritual is called the Rite of Ragnarok, and it's my understanding that this is the first time that this ritual has been documented in any way, shape, or form. So I guess that's somewhat historic, and Joshua and I are actually the first people to do any kind of real documentary, where we have full cooperation with the Church of Satan. I guess we're the first to do such a thing in about 40 years. So that I guess has some sort of a historical value as well, I guess. But
what about? Oh, okay. Well, I mean, when you're doing this project, and I know, obviously they spent obviously from what Joshua was telling us, they spent an awful lot of time constructing their Black House of the North to, kind of make the image of being creepy and maybe not unwholesome, but disturbing and weird and just whatever. I mean, how did you feel when you're filming all this stuff? Was it just more analytical about it, or did it kind of bug you a little bit or weird you out a little bit?
I don't know. I guess for me, it just I guess I was a little bit on the edge, but I'd say kind of the same as you would be going into any strange person's house. I mean, like, this is a person. To kind of set the scene. I mean, this is a person whom I had never even spoken with ever. I mean, Joshua had some. So I think some email correspondence and maybe one or two brief phone conversations with this man. I had never spoken with the man. I didn't even know what he was going to look like or anything. And so this guy met us at the airport, and we got in the car with him, and so I was still trying to get past. Okay, here I'm at somebody's house. I don't even know this person. I just met them, and they're a Satanist, and I don't know.
And you're having a sleepover.
Yeah, that's right. We're having a sleepover. That's right. We're going to be roasting marshmallows later.
And other things.
And other thing.
But what was your first feeling when you met this whole I can't think of his name right now, Peter Gilmore? I mean, what was your feeling when you first met him?
Well, honestly, my greatest concern in all of this was that because we didn't go up there advertising that I'm a Christian. I mean, we didn't, and so I was basically trying to kind of keep that to myself. Now, obviously, if they had, outright asked me what my beliefs were, I wasn't going to deny that, that I believe that Jesus is the Son of God and that he, died for my sins. I wasn't going.
And that all you guys are on the bullet train to hell. Anyway, go ahead.
That's right, yeah. And I do believe, while they don't believe there is a devil, I do believe there's a devil. So, so I didn't want to. I was hoping that that we wouldn't have that type of a conversation, and luckily we did not. They never asked what my beliefs were or anything like that.
Well, they did find out after the fact, though.
Oh, well, of course, yeah. Once they saw the rough cut of the movie, they definitely found out.
What did they think
really,
then?
As far as I know, nobody has made any real comments to that, or in regards to that at all. The only thing that I know of is that Peter Gilmore did make some sort of references to, maybe the film, maybe a professional editor could, tweak the film, and then I guess he went on to ask Joshua if I was the one that was editing the movie.
A little trust issue there.
What's that?
A little trust issue there.
Yeah, apparently so. Well, there were a few things that a few minor things that he wanted us to change, and we conceded on one of them, but not on the second one because it was very minor. And of course, the thing with any movie is if you show the subjects of the movie, too much, then it's impossible to try to make everybody happy. So that's why we basically just have to at some point just say, okay, well, enough is enough, or this is the film as it is, and we'll take your suggestions into consideration, but we are in no way obligated to make the changes that you would suggest. But he's the only one that's really made any sort of any comment to that effect. Diana DeMagis, Robert Lang's wife, actually surprised me in that there's a scene in the movie that where Joshua and I basically interview each other. And Diana DeMagis commented that I basically, in my interview section, summed up the entire message of the film, and that I know it sounds odd, since I know, Scott, that you are a devout Christian, but I think that Christians can at least get along with these people, even if if in some judgmental way maybe they're going to a different place than you and I are. But I think.
I mean, you can get along with anybody.
I think it's possible to sit down and probably have a beer with these guys.
Okay.
That's very strange. Would you call that probably the most surprising thing that you discovered when you were filming this, or were there other sort of surprises you weren't expecting?
Yeah, I'd say yeah. They really did surprise me. That all of the people that I met were surprisingly nice. I mean, they were all, and granted, Joshua and I, have discussed between ourselves that perhaps they could have deceived us, but and I suppose that could have been some fantastic, plan all along for them to deceive us. But I don't think that they would have had to go to something pretty elaborate and to get all of those people in on it. I think it would have been pretty difficult for them to really pull the wool over our eyes. But I think that they all seem to be pretty nice people. And they basically seem to have the attitude that if you pretty much leave them alone, they're going to leave you alone. So, which is, I think, what in the end, I think most people want anyway. I think most people in general, not just Satanists. I don't think they have the exclusive on that. I think most people in general kind of adopt the attitude that, hey, if you let me do my thing, I'll let you do your thing, and we'll both be happy.
Can't we all just get along?
Live and let live.
There you go. Rodney King, right?
That sounds a little too liberal to me, but hey, what do I know? Well, Eric,
I don't know. I wouldn't know. Being a conservative, I have.
Well, Eric, is there anything else you want to put a last word in on?
I can't think of anything unless if there's something else that you guys have questions about. I mean, I imagine Joshua probably covered a lot of ground with you guys.
He did, and
yeah.
we're going to have him back on to cover our last segment here. But we definitely wanted to get your perspective on it. I know you and I had talked about it before, but I wanted the listeners to kind of get an idea of what you thought.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute. It looks like we might have a caller there that might have a question for you. So
okay.
we'll hang tight here for a little bit and see. But, I thought it was a really good movie. It was definitely unexpected. When I saw the film the first time, the rough cut, I was just really, I was surprised. I'll give you that. I was surprised. And it's a really good film. I think everybody should check it out inside of churchofsatan.com. And if they go there now, they can get the film for, is it $7.95?
Yes. It's $7.95 until I think Thursday. I don't know. That's more Joshua's end of the thing as far as the marketing part of it. But I believe it's $7.95. I think maybe until Thursday, and then it goes up to $8.95 after that. But one cool thing that we're trying to do to add some value is anybody who buys the media stream will get the purchase. If they watch the movie and decide, wow, I have to have a DVD of this, then we will credit the purchase price of the media stream towards the purchase price of the DVD. So I think the DVDs run $16.95. So
about half price.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So it's a pretty good deal.
So I mean, really, $7.95, man. You can't even go to see a movie for that.
Not really.
I mean, now
and
even with Blockbuster prices.
You didn't hear me say this, but it's quite possible to gather a few people around a computer screen these days.
I didn't hear that, but so $7.95, man. I mean that is a great deal. You get, even if you do, get some buddies together, watch this thing. $7.95. You've got at least a good. What's the runtime on this final?
It's about 2.5 hours, and this cut is we're kind of doing things a little bit backwards. Usually, you'll see a movie come out, and you'll hear about how the director and the production company, went to these big battles about, not wanting to cut things out, and then some years down the road, they'll be on DVD, they'll have the theatrical release on DVD, and then there will be the director's cut or some.
And don't you hate that? And then you got to buy it again.
What we've actually done is we are releasing the director's cut first. So this is the longest version and the most extensive version of the film that will ever be available. Subsequent versions will probably be shortened some.
Okay.
One thing with this version, the current version, is you get to see the entire ritual. So that we have not cut anything out of the ritual at all. And I believe the ritual is about 35 minutes of the movie right there. So, so for those wanting to see a ritual in its full, content and everything, now's a good opportunity to see what that's like. So
cool, very cool.
Yep.
Well, Eric, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
We really appreciate it, man.
Oh, sure, not a problem.
All right, take care.
Talk to you.
All right, you too.
All right.
Bye.
And that was Eric Scott, the editor and cinematographer for
Inside Church of Satan.
Exactly. We're gonna take a short break, and we're gonna be back with Joshua P. Warren, and we're gonna wrap this puppy up. You're listening to World of the Unexplained, and we're back with Joshua P. Warren. Mr. Warren, tell us about. I don't know. I kind of wanted to talk about Church of Satan a little bit more, but I also wanted to hear about this house that you spent the night in.
Yeah. Well, those are both great topics because I do see, a relationship there, as I mentioned earlier, considering that, I went from spending all this really intense time with these people who don't think there is an afterlife or anything of a spiritual nature to going into that situation at this haunted house. But even between the two of those, something sort of intriguing happened because, I did conjure up or I did attempt to conjure up the devil.
Wonderful.
Oh, my God.
And, I wanted to do this just so I could interview him, of course.
Oh, of course.
And, I think that it would have been great if, there had been this rift in the floor and, this horned creature would have risen up and it'd be like some scene from Ghostbusters or something. But I obviously wasn't expecting that to happen, and so I figured that this would be more of a satirical thing to do. On the other hand, Eric, he said that he would not have done it himself.
Yeah, I kind of agree with him. Yeah.
So I got a naked woman, and they're easy to come by these days. You just order a pizza and request a female, and then club her in the head, that sort of thing.
I gotcha, yeah.
So I got my naked lady there on the altar. I had a goat skull, which is something I actually have had for years because...
I'm not asking.
Yeah, fair enough. I had, daggers and goblets and candles and, did all these things that are often traditionally associated with it. And it wasn't like I went through some kind of formal ritual, I just was saying, Satan, come forth. And, of course, nothing happened, and we kind of made a joke out of it at the time. On the other hand, after I did this, some very strange things started happening around my house.
Oh, really?
Let's hear them.
Yeah. Well, it began with a lot of bangs and knocks that were uncustomary for this house. I mean, I live in a new house. I've lived here less than a year. I put this place in myself, and all kinds of things that were causing us concern. And so we actually, at one point, we were getting so many bangs on the side of our house that I went out and got some guard dogs. Got a Rottweiler, and one night this Rottweiler started going absolutely nuts, and I looked outside. And there was some dark figure moving around the house, and I don't know what it was, but it was intimidating enough that I actually fired my gun off outside.
Oh, that's gonna work.
Yeah. And then things got even weirder when one day I have this big mirror. It's a big convex mirror like you put in the gas station, and this thing teleported itself. To the best I can figure, about halfway across my living room in the blink of an eye. And I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but all I know is my wife came home from work. We walked to the living room. She went into some place, put her purse down. We turned around, walked back, and this mirror is laying there in the middle of the floor. And
whoa.
I cannot figure out how that could happen conventionally. But then when things got even stranger is I went to a little gathering of people at one point when I was making the movie. This is not long after I'd done this thing calling forth the devil. And this strange guy walked up to me, and he spoke with a foreign accent, and he said that he was very much looking forward to the movie and that he was very happy that I'd called forth the devil.
Whoa.
And then he reached out and put some money in my pocket.
How much did he give you?
Around and walked off.
How much was it? Was it 30 pieces of... Oh, I'm sorry. No.
Yeah.
Was it $6.66?
Yeah. I'd rather not get specific about the monetary amounts here, but after that, he turned around, he walked off, and I started asking people, who's this guy? And nobody seemed to know exactly who he was, and so I wondered, did I meet the devil?
Whoa. Yeah, that's a really bizarre
And he gave
encounter.
He gave you money, yeah.
He
Weird.
had very bright, piercing blue eyes. Not what you would expect from the devil, but I don't know, just weird stuff like that. It sounds crazy, sounds like you're making it up, but so anyhow, already I was thinking, well, maybe this process of calling forth the devil has actually triggered something here, and then I got called up by a producer who was doing a show for the Fine Living Network. In fact, this show is going to air, I think, 2 or 3 more times in the coming days, and I'll give you those dates and times in a minute. But anyway, they were doing a program about interesting things to do in Louisiana, all around the region, and they wanted to devote one segment to Myrtle's Plantation, considered by many the most haunted place in America. And I'd heard about Myrtles for a long time, but I didn't know what to think of it. So they flew me down there. When I arrived in Louisiana, I thought I'd gotten there in the middle of a natural disaster. I mean, there were tornado watches and warnings everywhere and major flooding. Here I'm driving my rental car from the airport. I can barely see where I'm going, and I come up on a bridge that's flooded and collapsed. And
Oh, wonderful.
yeah, so now I'm off on this big detour through the swamps and bayous, and the water's coming over the road, and I'm surrounded by alligators and snakes and quicksand, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to be one of these guys on top of my car, like, please. So
Thinking maybe it wasn't a great idea to conjure Satan that time.
yeah, no kidding. So by the time I reached this big, looming, ghoulish mansion, it was one of the biggest reliefs of my life, which is kind of ironic. And they had this big pack of black cats that sort of roamed the property. So anyway, when I got into this room, it was a very Victorian room, tall ceilings, big 4-poster bed like Ebenezer Scrooge would sleep in. And to make a long story short, the first night I was there, I was completely alone in this mansion. The staff went home at 5 o'clock. And so in this place, the room I was in did not have a television or a telephone or internet access, spotty cell phone signal. It was the only reason you knew you weren't living in the 1700s is because there was a toilet and the electricity worked. But anyway, I think it was around 9:30 p.m., and I was rolling a lot of tape in this place. I turned out all the lights in the room, and it was raining like you wouldn't believe outside. And all of a sudden, here I'm looking around through my night shot mode. I hear this very strong boom, boom, boom. And at first I thought, well, I guess somebody knocked on my door, even though I couldn't tell where it was coming from. So I went and I looked outside, and there was nobody there. So, and of course, there are trees around the room, and there's mud everywhere, and you could tell if the ground had been disturbed, which I later did, and it wasn't. So I went back inside, and then there it came again, boom, boom, boom. And at that point, I knew something strange was going on, and I said, if there is something here that's trying to communicate with me, would you do that again, please? Boom, boom, boom.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, would you do that one more time, please? Boom, boom, boom. Instantly. And at that point, I got that little chill that ran down my spine. And I thought, maybe there is something here. And, well, that began an all-night experience, hours and hours of me interacting. It never showed itself, but full-on interacting. And thank goodness I was rolling video on this, because you have to see the video to see what really went down that night.
Did you get any?
We're almost out of time here, so I'll just say that, again, I'm going to send all that footage that I shot for free to anybody who goes to InsideTheChurchOfSatan.com and signs up for the e-newsletter, and also that show. If you want to see the segment, if you've got the Fine Living Network, the show is called Stay, Eat, Play, Louisiana, and it airs on May 8th at 5 p.m. East Coast time, and then on May 11th at 11 p.m. East Coast time, and then one last time on May 12th at 3 o'clock that morning. So it's, that convinced me, okay, there's something there in another realm. It's aware, it's interactive, it's intelligent, and I don't see how that after that you could believe that we die and that's it, and there's nothing greater than man.
Wow,
that's quite a story.
So how long did you interact with this thing?
This went on for hours. I guess, it started at about 9 p.m., and the last time, because I had to go to sleep about 4 or 5 in the morning, because I had to get up the next day and shoot this TV show. Otherwise, I would have stayed up. I was laying there trying to sleep, and this thing was banging on the headboard right next to my ear.
Oh, my gosh.
And at one point, I thought, if this thing actually shows up, I'm not sleeping in here. I'm going to my car. I'm sleeping in my car. So, but the last time I remember it waking me up was just around 8 o'clock in the morning. And then the next night, knowing that this had happened, oh, man, I set up all my equipment. I was prepared. I was ready to document the heck out of this. And it was the most serene, calm, peaceful night you could ever have.
Oh, man.
Of course.
That's the way it works.
Ghosts don't show up on cue.
That's the way it works.
You're a braver man than I to stay in that.
I would have been running and screaming like a little girl out of that place.
Even being completely alone and the rain coming down, and you're the only person in that place. Nah, I don't know if I could do it. But kudos. Seriously, well done.
Well, it proved something to me that at least because you can't you can't help but feel that irrepressible urge to, at very least turn on the light, if not just get out of the situation. But I figured, hey, that's what I came here for, and it gives you some confidence to know that you can be in a situation like that and feel the intrinsic fear, but still just keep on doing your research.
Excellent. So your website again is InsideTheChurchOfSatan.com.
Yep, that's right. And, of course, my personal website, if anybody wants to know about just the other projects I'm involved with, is JoshuaPWarren.com. There's no period after the P. And the last name is spelled W-A-R-R-E-N. And either of those ways will give you information on upcoming projects.
Excellent. Well, I hope this project does well for you out there. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to watch it. And I'm looking forward to it, even though Scott's got the head start. But let's see. I guess that's it then.
Thank you so much,
Yes.
Joshua. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a call after the show tonight because I want to know this stuff. You know what I mean?
The stuff.
I want to hear about this thing. So I'll be giving you a call later.
Okay.
All
right. Take it easy, buddy.
All right.
Take care, Josh.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again.
And that was Joshua P. Warren.
We couldn't cue it anymore in less than a minute. Gosh, what a harrowing tale. I can't wait to watch it.
It's crazy.
Inside the Church of Satan. And I'd like to see that stuff that he's talking about, too, at Myrtle's Plantation.
Well, you can see it just by
Sure.
signing up inside churchofsatan.com on the email thing.
Sure enough.
Cool. You already signed us up? Cool.
Oh, okay then.
See, D's on top of things.
Yeah,
here,
he
man.
is, man.
Well,
He is.
next week we won't be having a show because I'll be on my honeymoon.
Last week before
Yeah.
the wedding,
That's it, man.
there'll be kilts and broadswords. No broadswords, really, but kilts definitely.
All right.
It'll be excellent. Congratulations again, Scott.
Thank you, sir.
And we, I guess I'll see you there.
All right, man. This is Jay Scott. You're on the JDDJ on the Omni Sound Radio 1 Network saying boo. Good night. Have a good one.
Wow, this is Trey Lackey, Wotu. Kurzweil, North Carolina, small town, talk about big things. D.